Hello, friends. Host Eric here, talking with famous people, and I am here today talking with, amongst other people, Kaizo. Kaizo asked a question, and I'd like, if he gets to make a video about it, so I'd like him to begin again with a question.
Okay, what's up, guys? It's host Kaiser here, talking with famous people. So, is there a point in, I suppose, living for things, and is there meaning in life? And can you attribute any form of, I suppose, sequence in life that will create meaning? I suppose, yeah, simple sense.
Meaning. Well, okay, this is I think it's a pretty critical core question that everybody on some level has to address, which is simply that you go through life and you're not given from the outset any definitive, clear attainment metrics. So you'll hear from multiple people, well, this is what it means to be successful, or that's what it means to be successful, but those individuals will disagree with each other. And you'll hear the various aphorisms of humanity often be directly contradictory. So, silence is golden. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, what am I supposed to do with this? So, a lot of people at some point in their life, or at multiple points in their lives, feel as though they are adrift. That is to say, they need a direction or a sense of what it is that makes life meaningful. Typing is certainly a big factor in how this existential angst or sense of malaise that something is wrong, even though there's nothing specific you can put your finger on, uh, is gonna express differently for different types. But what I want to talk about regarding this right now is post typal, or it's not about typing. So I'm going to talk about people universally in ways that I don't normally do. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit less precise because it's more general. But I would say that the thing about it is we all want to the extent that we want, and to the extent that we want, we seek. Different people want different things, but for people who are wanting, seeking will comprise some part of their identity. And it's this process of wanting and seeking and feeling dissatisfied or incomplete, ill content that causes people to ask these sort of questions like, how do I make life meaningful? Is there some algorithm I can execute? Is there a particular path that is advisable for me? So we all are faced with the reality that we're not going to get a definitive answer that enjoys wide consensus, although we may choose to embrace a single paradigm as definitive. To the extent that we're an NT, we know also that we can embrace a paradigm as definitive, and it's still just metaphysical action. We can walk back away from it and somehow embrace a different paradigm later on and still manifest the same identity, despite the fact that we're framing things through a whole different set of worldviews. So it makes this quest for meaning extremely challenging, given that each individual may find it temporarily, it seems, or have a hard time knowing where they find it or what gives them a sense of wholeness. The word I've been avoiding so far is purpose. And the reason I've been avoiding it is because I used to put a lot more priority on the purpose modality of life for attaining meaning. Now I put a lot more priority on the duality aspect of life for attaining meaning. I find myself freed up to realize myself in simple, low tech ways that I never even realized were important. In other words, when you're doing SI and you're taking a bath or eating a meal, it's important to not have your head in the clouds, wandering around, thinking about philosophy. It's important to sit there and be thinking about how good the food tastes and just eat it. It's like, ah, taking a bath. Don't try to multitask. Try to enjoy your bath the best you can. I find myself in odd moments feeling whole in a fashion that I never have ever before in my life, and it just by being with Kimberly. I could not be a stronger advocate of duality because gradually, as time is passing, I'm watching it grow. Well, I'm watching and seeing what it's doing to me. It's fixing all the parts of me that are broken, and it's providing for me the contentment that I always sought prior. It's not. I am not telling you you'll be more content in a relationship. You need to be partnered up. Blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you you need your dual. Sociologics calls your fourth function your dual seeking function. And that's exactly what it is. And when you find your dual and you're with them, you realize, oh, shit. All this shit's been in the way. All this shit that's supposed to be solved by being with my dual, who handles her half of shit while I handle my half of shit. And it's perfectly complementary. We make a symbiotic whole that's greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what I've been looking for my whole life. And oh, I always knew, I always kind of suspected that if I could just really, really find the right person, I'd feel this strong feeling of some sort. And then, I experienced something that I realized, oh, that's what I was expecting, sort of, but I didn't know what it was. So, okay, my answer then is duality is my first answer. How do you attain meaning and purpose in your life? Get with your dual. That's my first answer. The second answer, though, would be a purpose-driven answer, and for that, you need some manner of magical thinking, whether it's deism, such as belief in God or Christianity, or uh, whether it's INFJ, collective unconscious, uh, smoke and mirrors. That's its own kind of magic. The thing is, I use NI magical thinking. I use uh, God. I have an active relationship with God that's intermittent, I guess, insofar as I engage in behaviors that are intentionally God contacting. So I found it. There was a time when that was what allowed me to get on the path to be whole. That's what allowed me to quit drinking was um, engaging in faith-based cognition, and then what's allowed me to feel like, oh, fuck yeah, all the time, almost all the time, is duality. Plus, you gotta have enough money to get by. Can't be too broke. Being broke sucks ass.
Okay, so basically, I suppose maintaining some kind of balance within yourself and your life. So finding a duality, someone who acknowledges that, for example, in your case, your SI may be your seeking function, but they don't judge it, they don't look down on it or expect you to just be better. Like let's say an ESFJ would, in your case, but they would more or less help you out with it, help you understand it, and you help them with their seeking function. Is it
That's
like
with the
that also?
fourth. With the fourth function, it's I provide more NE than I need, so to speak. And
Uh,
the way it helps her, I've noticed, is it plays out in a couple of specific ways. One, we'll go off on little joke riffs and we'll both laugh and have a good time. Or number two, she'll start ideating, but she'll get kind of like muddled up in the ideation. And you can see her NE is just like, I'm tired. Like my SI gets tired if I try to apply it too long. And so then in that instance, I'll pick up the slack for her and go, okay, well, how about blah, 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 blah. I go, yeah, you know. So in those regards, the NE takes place. And then the third one is simply as an audience member. ISFJs they like being in the audience, which is something ENTPs don't really, seems insane. But and so I like to make Kimberly laugh, make jokes for her, or do stuff for her. You know, even if it's just like doing tasks for her, just to make her happy.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Then I suppose, but what about I suppose achieving greater meaning? So let's say, for example, as an NTP, does using NT help you, in a general sense, to do something greater? I suppose writing a book in your case, or I don't know, or coming up with theories, etc. Does that help you fulfill yourself more? And let's say, for example, an ISFJ using SI, does that help them feel more
Well,
fulfilled?
she's trying to help with autonomy stuff in general right now, and she helps in a really organic way. She's you can see it, Colin. I, I can't say here's a list of things that need to be done. Hand it to her and expect them all to get accomplished. She needs to know what she's doing from experience first because she's an SI though. So once she goes through a process and understands it, then she can do that again. But she's not inclined to like take charge, take ownership of a lot of that stuff because she's a perceiver too. You know, SI is a perceiving type. They're they're kind of loosey. You know, they're like we're all kind of loosey goosey. We just well, I know we're supposed to do that, but let's stay here and pull bombers instead. Yeah,
So in the end, it kind of works out because you don't stress each other out and, too much because I suppose you kind of
I,
understand where each coming from,
what's that, sweetie?
doing things.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing is the obvious thing with the dual relationship is the fourth slot seeking, fourth slot fulfilling. But the interesting thing is there's perhaps the most powerful aspect of it is what it does with my sixth slot, and I expect with Kimberly's sixth slot as well. Because Kimberly's TE polar, I have been permitted to do shit tons of like home improvement man tasks and stuff like that. Now, I am not naturally good at those things, although I keep getting better at them over time. And and in my previous relationship, it was so stressful to do anything because Candace would be sitting there watching over my shoulder, and if I put one screw in the wrong place, it was Eric, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, it was super stressful. Now here, I come out and Kimberly's got some crazy notion. First of all, that's how I like to do projects. I like them to begin with crazy notions rather than something like scheduled or whatever. That's a great thing. Yeah. Okay, this is a cigarette putter outer for Kimberly because if you want to see somebody stress out, watch Kimberly get to the end of a cigarette and realize now it's time to put it out. She's like, ah, ah. If she has an ashtray, she'll go like stab, and smush it all and ruin it. So I've tried multiple solutions to get for her to have a better cigarette putting out system.
Oh, okay,
If
that's interesting.
if I value TE, she'd drive me insane. But I don't value it, but I'm good at it if I'm allowed to fail at it. And this environment allows me to fail and still succeed at it. So I've gotten shit tons of stuff done. Not everything has come out perfect. The screen door is a bit of a disappointing project amongst all the projects I've done recently. But most of the things I've done have come out, fair to middling to good. If I'm careful and like by the time I painted the floor of the salon, I knew I was in the right work mode. I painted the deck, and so I knew I was going to get not one speck of goddamn paint along the baseboards and get right up to the edge anyway. I was going to do it all perfect. And I did, and her client noticed that I had taken such care. So it's like the trial and error permissibility of this environment and of this relationship is critical for me to be successful with my TE. I'm assuming Kimberly's FI is getting better, but I don't really know what that would be like. Do you feel like you understand and use your own feelings better now, Kimberly?
Oh yeah.
Can you explain what that's like?
For
Or what?
me, I'm able to understand it better, so I'm able to explain it better.
Your own feelings?
Yeah.
So what's an example of something that you feel like you understand your feelings about better now than you used to?
Well, I'm gentler with people because now I understand that it's more of just the way that they are, and I can't really expect people to change or people to understand certain things. So I'm a little bit more gentle with my opinions.
What do you think about your conceptualization of your own relationships? Who's doing that? Um, like, FI is considered the thing that we use when we're understanding how a relationship grows over time, or how we value an old friendship versus a new friendship, stuff like that. Do you feel as though your grasp of the mechanics of relationships over time has improved?
I don't know if it's like I think it's confirmed it.
Do you think you're more careful with my feelings than you have been with previous?
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, meaning of life, duality plus metaphysics plus money.
Okay, that makes sense. That's interesting because I suppose I think one of the most important knowledge that people don't understand is, I suppose, duality in the sense that people are always trying so much within different relationships, but when things get difficult, because in the initial sense of a relationship that isn't based on duality, things are easy because it's this excitement and you're not in the practical sense of existence. You're in a pretty metaphysical state. So
Yeah.
things are easy. But the moment when there's a little bit of stress or there comes a hurdle or an energy level that needs to be overcome, that's when, of course, the different cognitive functions come into play. So instead of people doing things together, they tend to then rely on, like you said, for example, in a previous ESFJ non-duality relationship, the ESFJ may use their SI to look down on your SI and expect you to just do things rather than being kind in the way they lead you to do things. And you may use your TI in a more of a mocking fashion to the TI, if that makes sense, because
Are you talking
the
about
duality,
with an ESFJ?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely true. It does play out like that. I would have imagined it could play out the same way with an ISFJ, except it somehow doesn't. So even though my TI is, yeah, even though my TI is capable of like pushing her around on a TI frame, it doesn't happen because number one, uh, she 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 doesn't she calls bullshit without challenging the TI. So in other words, she doesn't say your TI is wrong. She says, I don't care about your TI, it's still bullshit. And that's
Oh,
important
yeah.
because it causes me to go, well, what am I doing here anyway? Am I trying to win here or something? If so, why? Can you talk and so I can see if we got audio? No, tries out.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
let
that's
me.
interesting. Yeah, I suppose
Eric,
that's
you've been on a roll tonight, man. I gotta say.
On a roll? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Saying a lot of stuff or good stuff or what?
Just the way your monologuing is flowing, I guess.
Thank you. That's good feedback to hear
Yeah.
and useful to know. So, um, regarding what was the last thing you said, Kaizo, regarding the ESFJ, ISFJ thing?
Yes. So how come, for example, if you look at it from a purely logical sense, you'd expect that you'd use your TI to push her around, and then she might use her SI to push your SI around. But how come in a dual relationship that doesn't happen in the same sense? Yeah.
Right. Well, it's because if we're to be pushing around things, she'd use her FE to push me around, and I'd use my TI to push her around, and we'd have that sort of FETI fight that people sometimes have, like light bulb and me and Susie were having in that video we watched, where light bulb is trying to launch FE attack after FE attack, and lots of FE attacks are imitations of TI attacks. It's a common FE thing where they understand certain TI sounding stuff and think it gives them TI credibility. Anyway, regardless, that's what that's what would be happening if we were having that conflict, this FETI kind of conflict. It doesn't happen with me and Kim because Kim is not is not at all competitive with me on TI. She either is interested in it as something that's informative or whatever, or she might be resistant to it, not like, no, your TI is wrong, but I don't care about your TI. Or she might be interested in using it for certain things, at which point I'll usually try to step in and facilitate. So, uh, because it depends on what she's doing. Certain kinds of TI stuff she's just as good as me, and other kinds of TI stuff that's more strategic or tactical or whatever is I like to try to jump in and assist, and she doesn't mind it because it's helpful. Just like I don't mind her FE assistance. I've deemed her the niceness coordinator, which basically means that makes her, I've determined, less nice to me. That's she basically interprets the job of niceness coordinator, meaning check Eric and make sure everybody else is happy. So that's good. That's what the nicest coordinator should do. And because I'm FE third slot, and seventh slot FI, I don't get my feelings hurt about shit like that at all. I'm just like, right on. That's good sort of organizational prioritizing. So
That's interesting.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because like I think it makes sense. So what I've noticed with, for example, an ENTP/ESFJ relationship is that the ESFJ would start parroting the ENTP's TI. And what I mean by parroting is by like almost like they're mirroring your responses and replaying it to you in a weird sense. I don't if you get what I mean.
They get really good at it. That's the
Yeah,
crazy thing. By the
and then
end
you
of my
actually
marriage, Candace could throw down with me like you wouldn't believe. And the way she did it, she shifted ground constantly. It was just constant ground shifting. It drove me fucking crazy. But she also would spit back things that I had said to her, like you're talking about. They take them in as almost like little TE recipes because they're four slot TI. They're seeking it, and so if they're in a relationship with an ENTP who's providing a lot of TI a lot of the time, they'll end up picking up a fair amount of it anyway. But they don't quite process it the way that TI strong slot TI people process it. They process it more in little chunks unless it's a mechanical thing. Anyway, regardless, it's mechanical for FE purposes though. After we got divorced, she told me about how she started working as this administrator at this adult facility for disabled people in Orange County, and she's the boss. She started telling me about a meeting where she had to scold an underling, and she recited a bit of her speech to the underling, knowing that I'd get a kick out of it because it was taken straight from speeches I'd given to Candace, right? It was taken straight from Candace critiques. And it was all about problem admiration. And so, like, the speech she gave to the employee was, look, Judy, you've come in here, you've expressed problems A, B, C, and D. They are all subsets of problem A, though, first of all, so you're really articulating a lot of detail about this problem. I provided you solutions for A that takes care of B, C, and D, Or I've also addressed B, C, and D each independently. Now you keep going back and describing A, B, C, and D in the problems. It seems to me that you are no longer part of the solution. You are simply sitting here asking us all to admire this problem.
Interesting. So does FE then have the ability to, I suppose, like in X-Men, you have the copycat kind of thing, whereby you can imitate TI in a sense, because it's almost like they have this ability to memorize certain elements of TI and kind of emphasize it in an almost TE kind of way, like the memorize segments, and they can replicate it, and they can actually speak fast. Because I noticed in the beginning the speech pattern is quite slow, but then as they keep interacting with TI, the speech pattern increases speed and also accuracy, and it almost feels like you're having this toe-to-toe
They
TI kind
practice
of.
it. Well, they practice it in their SI tool function. So what's the best way for an ESFJ to learn anything is to experience it over and over again. So good news for Candace. We had that fight so many times. She learned it, That's what it boils down to. Now, Kimberly and I, we don't have those fights because Kimberly doesn't try to throw down TI with me, and I don't fight too hard. I rarely fight on any FE shit. We do have FETI disputes, but they're not disputes really. They're just seeing it from a different angle. Like, for example, there was a video that I thought contained good content in it, but it was a video directed towards people from my debate school, and it was filmed at my Temple City house in the backyard, up against the gate. The dog's barking in the middle of it, and I'm like half distracted by planes flying overhead, and I look kind of scraggly. And my thinking is, yes, but all the words I'm saying are great here. This is good content. It's informative, and it says what I want it to say. And Kimberly's like, fuck no, we're not using that video. You look like a crazy person. So I defer to her in that instance because I realize that while my TI may be sound, I am not selling to primarily people who are TI first or second slot. I'm selling to a general populace that is made up mostly people who are not that.
Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, I've engaged in a friendship with an INFJ, and what I've noticed is they don't provide the SI or anything like that. However, they kind of use the FE to provide SI like minus. So, for example, I've had an INFJ friend say to me, okay, so today we're going to go out to a place, make sure you dress a certain kind of way. And, it's because for them, it's, of course, they're trying to still operate within functions of normal society. But what I've noticed with the NI from the INFJs, they have this ability to kind of interact with your FI in a way that can't previously be done. So with the NI, they're able to hone in, because you may understand elements about yourself, but you don't quite know how to bring all the ideas into one. But they have this strange ability of honing in and truly helping you seek your FI and understand why certain things are the way they are and how to improve. I think, yeah, so
Well, the big
I suppose,
INFJ trick is this. Here's the thing. This is what INFJs do better than any other type, and probably more, and maybe they're the only type that really truly does it, which is they use their FE tool function to engage with you about your own emotional content, like you're saying, and your own intuitive content, your own passions, and your own whatever, without and get you to like them without their engaging in active FE display much. So they're going to have very rare instances of outbursts of FE. And ISFJ is going to be a lot more gregarious in that regard.
Yeah, they're much more laid back and what am I looking for?
Chill.
Because I used to be with one. No, not just chill, but also like very, very pointed in the way that they talk to people. Like there's just it's no frills FE. It's just
Are you talking about ISFJ?
yeah.
no.
Yeah. INFJ is frills FE in the sense that, but it's less, but it's much more carefully like, and here's my little bubble of FE. I'm an INFJ. It launches out
it's
there.
more. I feel like with INFJs, it can be I don't want to use the word manipulative, but it's like more.
Crafted.
It's more
more
crafty.
crafty,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
But do not underestimate the craftiness of ISFJ. They're so crafty
Yeah,
that
they still can
you
do
think
it.
they're not crafty. That's how
Well,
crafty they are.
yeah.
We can't hear you.
They tend to be crafty when it comes to like material goals, though, whereas like INFJs will be crafty to like for more abstract reasons, I guess, or perhaps emotional reasons.
Well, I mean, ISFJs will keep shit close to the vest, and they'll let you go ahead
Yeah.
and think and feel what you think and feel.
Yeah.
You know, and they're perfectly happy to play along with whatever it is you're doing, knowing that they're playing along, right? And you're just assuming that they're going along, right? That's ISFJ's trick.
I suppose
They appear to give no resistance, but the resistance roots.
Oh yeah, they
dig
won't
deep.
listen to you if they don't want to. But
Oh, they sure the fuck
They'll-
won't.
like, yeah, all right. You listen to me now.
Let me ask anybody else in the room. Do you guys, anybody else want to talk about the meaning of life, which was what this thing started out as, is finding meaning in life, at least. Before we close this video out, it's been a great conversation and everything, but I think it's about video length for a longer video, but worth it. It's been a good conversation. Anybody else have anything else to say about meaning of life or anything like that?
I actually think you covered it pretty well, Eric. I don't know about the whole duality thing because I wouldn't know about that, but you know,
We're gonna
I
find
think
you
you
an ESFJ girl.
generally
Okay?
you got a good idea of what the meaning of life is. What the kind of what people will be thinking and feeling, and what kind of things they'll do to seek the answers and all that business.
Good. Because I'm gonna be
Pretty much
competing
covers
this
it.
year. I'm gonna be competing this year in the meaning of life nationals. So I've been working on my meaning of life case, and I'm
Interesting.
hoping to medal this year. Get silver maybe.
So you
After-
basically
after
think
Deepak Chopra.
finding a good mate is possibly the most important thing.
I do.
Basically. Okay.
well,
But
I have to agree on.
Go ahead. Sorry, Kaiser.
I have to agree on that because, like, for example, personally as an ENTP, so when I had the ESFJ, when it was working for the problematic situation, is that you have a muse, you have something that inspires you to be able to succeed in a much more productive manner. So whatever goals or that you may have in your life, having that semi-duality, or in, for example, Eric's case, duality, really can engage you and help you do things that you could previously not have done by yourself. And because it inspires you, it gives you some hope. And I think that's the most important thing is.
Well, it makes sense to me. I'm not disagreeing with it even. But I guess what comes to mind is that a lot of people will tell you like the opposite, pretty much, that you have to focus on yourself.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Spacey. Thank you for framing properly there. A lot of people will tell you a couple things. They're going to tell you, number one, you should focus on yourself, and when you're healthy, then it won't matter if you're in a relationship. No, you shouldn't. You should focus on finding your dual. Number two thing they'll tell you is relationships are a lot of hard work, and you put in the time, and you both invest in it, and figure out your differences and blah blah blah. No, if you've got a lot of work to put into it, you're not in the right relationship. Leave that person and go find your dual. Those are my closing messages to the world population. Don't be afraid to leave your husband or wife. If they're not your dual, you probably don't belong with them. Sorry. It's okay. No, I'm not sorry. It's okay for you to leave. You don't have to have a better reason than you're not happy. Okay? I hope everybody takes that message to heart. Thanks for watching Talking with Famous People, and don't forget to leave your husband or wife if they're not your dual.